an extensive amount of forensic and demographic evidence was presented in this trial. This evidence is analyzed in detail in the judgment. Based on this evidence, the trial chamber has found that at least 5,336 identified individuals were killed in the executions following the fall of Srebrenica. However, noting that the evidence before it is not all-encompassing, the trial chamber is satisfied that the number of identified individuals will rise. The trial chamber therefore considers that the number of individuals killed in the executions following the fall of Srebrenica could well be as high as 7,826. The scale and nature of the murder operation, with the staggering number of killings, the systematic and organized manner in which it was carried out, the targeting and relentless pursuit of the victims, and the plain intention apparent from the evidence to eliminate every Bosnian Muslim man who was captured or surrendered, proves beyond reasonable doubt that this was genocide. As these events played out north of Srebrenica, the VRS also maintained a military focus on the Žepa enclave. The VRS initiated discussions regarding the removal of the population of Žepa before arriving militarily at the enclave. 3 rounds of negotiations took place. At each juncture, military force was the means used by the VRS to compel concessions from the Bosnian Muslim population of Žepa. As the attacks continued, they intensified. Further, news about the fate of the Bosnian Muslims from Srebrenica began to circulate, adding to the panic of the population, and loudspeakers broadcasted a message that there was no chance for the Bosnian Muslim population as the area was controlled by Mladić. Ultimately, in the face of these impossible conditions, the population had no choice but to leave the enclave. As one witness described, the choice was, quote, to leave Žepa under very cruel and humiliating circumstances, or to remain and then either be killed or be subjected to suffering, unquote. Most of the transportation of the civilians took place on 26th July, and by the following day, the 27th, around 4,000 or 5,000 Bosnian Muslim women, children, and elderly and wounded were transported by bus out of Žepa. As of 31st July, when negotiations as to their fate appeared to have stopped, the Bosnian Muslim able-bodied men of Žepa, civilians and military, fled in various directions, including across the Drina River to Serbia. These men also faced the same situation as the civilians, and they had no choice but to escape the enclave. While a so-called agreement was signed to give a veneer of legitimacy to the movement of the Bosnian Muslim population of Žepa, the trial chamber has found that this constituted forcible transfer, including by majority Judge Kwon dissenting, of the able-bodied men who fled to Serbia. I now turn to the legal finding.
Sada ću preći na pravne zaključke. Predresno vijeće će sada ukratko iznijeti svoje ključne
the interpreters on the English channel. I'm now receiving the Serbo-Croat translation. If that could stop, it would help me immensely. The trial chamber will now summarize its key legal findings. The trial chamber has found that there was a joint criminal enterprise to murder and a joint criminal enterprise to forcibly remove with several participants. The trial chamber has found that opportunistic killings were committed in the course of the JCE2 murder and by majority Judge Kwon dissenting in the course of the JCE2 forcibly remove. Further, it has found that some members of the JCE2 murder had genocidal intent and thus genocide was committed. It has also found that members of both JCEs had the requisite special intent for the crime of persecution. It has also been established beyond reasonable doubt that there was a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population. This attack commenced with the issuance of Directive 7 and had various components, including the strangulation of the enclaves through the restriction of humanitarian supplies, the gradual weakening and disabling of UNPROFOR, and a planned military assault on the enclaves, and culminated in the removal of thousands of people from Srebrenica and Žepa. Therefore, applying the legal elements of the crimes charged in the indictment to the facts found to be proven, the trial chamber has found that the following crimes were committed by members of the Bosnian Serb forces in various locations alleged in the indictment: genocide, conspiracy to commit genocide, extermination, a crime against humanity, murder, a crime against humanity and a violation of the laws or customs of war, murder, cruel and inhumane treatment, terrorizing civilians, and forcible transfer as acts of persecution, a crime against humanity, and finally, forcible transfer as an inhumane act, a crime against humanity. The trial chamber finds that the elements of the crime of deportation have not been established. I now turn to individual criminal responsibility of each of the accused, starting with Vujadin Popović. Vujadin Popović was the Chief of Security of the Drina Corps in 1995, and he held the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. On 12th July, Popović forecasted the planned separations, transfers, and killings in the enclave when speaking to Ljubomir Nikolić prior to the third Hotel Fontana meeting. He told Ljubomir Nikolić that, quote, all the Baljas have to be killed, unquote, and asked him to assist in the operation. Popović was present with the Bosnian Serb forces in Potocari on 12th July, and the trial chamber has found that Popović was aware of the large number of men among the thousands of Bosnian Muslims gathered at Potocari on this day. The trial chamber has found that Popović had knowledge of the operation to capture men along the Konjević-Polje road on 13th of July. That evening, Popović phoned Drago Nikolić to inform him that a large number of prisoners would be brought from Bratunac to Zvornik in order to be killed. He asked Drago Nikolić to assist in this operation. On 14 July, Beara, Popović, and Nikolić met at the Standard Barracks, which was the Zvornik Brigade's headquarters in Karakaj, to organize and coordinate the killing operation. Following this meeting, Popović carried out the initial steps required to put the plan in action when he accompanied a convoy of buses carrying Bosnian Muslim prisoners from Bratunac to Gerbavci School in Orahovac. The trial chamber has found that later that day, Popović was present at the field in Orahovac as the executions took place. On 15th July, Popović was present at the Ročević School, organizing personnel and equipment to facilitate the detentions at the school as well as the executions which occurred later that day at a gravel pit near Kozluk. Also on this day, Popović gave the Zvornik Brigade duty officers instructions to not record any information concerning the Bosnian Muslim prisoners, nor should he speak about them over the radio. The following days, that is 16th of July, Popović was present at yet another site where prisoners were detained prior to execution. I'm referring to the Kula school in Pilica. On this day, Popović requested the delivery of fuel from the Zvornik Brigade in relation to the execution and burial of prisoners in Pilica. Dražen Erdemović saw a so-described lieutenant colonel at Pilica several times on 16th July, including at the Radivoje military farm execution site. The, quote, lieutenant colonel, unquote, was organizing personnel to participate in the executions.